Introduce our third speaker, Lizzie. Her title of her speech is Todd Marinovich, Why Should We Care? She's writing a speech with purpose, and the timeline is around 5 to 7 minutes. Please welcome Lizzie Wright.
Thank you. Todd Marinovich. Crickets. I had the same reaction the first time I heard that name. I too had troubles even pronouncing it correctly. However, I dug in because I'm a researcher by nature. And quickly, 3 people emerged in that research. And they revolved around football, art, and addiction. The aspect of football is what Todd Marinovich is most known for, especially in Southern California. This was, by any measure, an athlete whose stardom and public face was remarkable from a very early age. He was called America's first test tube athlete, America's robo quarterback. Also the Keith Richards of sports, but we'll get to that. And was profiled in People magazine as a 15-year-old. Right, so this is someone whose exceptional talents on the football field led to being the best player in the country coming out of high school, the first quarterback as a freshman for USC, a football powerhouse, to take them to a Rose Bowl victory as a freshman. The first sophomore in history to declare for the NFL draft, so young that he had to run his own combine because he was too young to join the NFL combine. Fast forward, despite a cocaine arrest, is picked in the first round of the NFL draft by the Raiders, ahead of names that might be familiar in football circles. Brett Favre, to name one. So that's what we're talking about in terms of the promise of this athlete. Okay, that's the first Todd Marinovich I met. The second one was an artist. Todd Marinovich was actually born an artist, as most are. His passion for painting in particular was something that, if cultivated at a very young age, perhaps we'd be talking about him in different circles. But unfortunately, the reality of the football promise overshadowed what was, at even a young age, the potential for a very promising career. He actually has an art business now, and we'll get to why that matters. And ironically, the football dynasty of the Raiders, not so much as successful these days, but back then, and certainly prior to Todd's arrival with the Raiders, it's an organization that has embraced Todd's art. And in fact, it's featured all throughout their stadium in Las Vegas. The third person I met was the addict. This is a man who's now 56. He became an addict at age 15. And he calls fear and booze his gateway drugs. Now, it didn't just end there, of course. These stories often take wild twists and turns. By college, cocaine, LSD, ecstasy, you name it. It was all in the smorgasbord of his palate. And by the time he was with the Raiders, it got even worse. By the time he left the Raiders, Now we're talking about terms I'd never even heard before. China white, 100 times more lethal than fentanyl. Black tar heroin, sounds bad? It is bad. Impurities, who knows the level of toxicity we're talking about here with black tar heroin. So after 8 stays in rehab, and that's a loose count, we're talking probably far more than that, 5 incarcerations, a rap sheet that is shocking by any measure. I see these 3 people, and I write his memoir for Todd. So when I think about who's Todd Marinovich and why should we care? Even if you don't like football, you don't follow art, you might not know an addict. I'd bet every one of us knows one of those 3 people in our lives. And so that is exactly why we should care about someone like Todd Marinovich. Thank you.